Hey guys, DK here and welcome to Vitsify Code. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can get started using Express.js as your default backend language. If you're just moving over from PHP and you want a new language to test and try your skills upon, I think Express.js is the best one for you to go for. Well, this video is going to cover all the basic steps you need and all the basic tools you need to get started. So let's dive right in. First of all, you might know that Express.js is a part of Node.js, okay? And Node.js is the runtime that allows JavaScript to run on the server. And this video is going to cover a lot of things about Node.js, so just stick with me. So now, in order to get started using Express, you'd first of all need to download Node. And to download Node, it's easy. All you just need to do is go over to nodejs.org and download this latest version right here. Now once you download it and install it, it is pretty much straightforward. Like if you want other versions like the versions for Linux machines and Mac machines, you can say order download right here. Now pretty much this site is going to automatically detect your OS and it's going to give you the best version for you. But if it doesn't detect that, you can head over to order downloads right here, choose your OS. Now pretty much if you use a Mac, you can just slap this one right here. If you use a Linux, you can download the source code and install it manually. But if you use a Windows, you can just click right here, download the latest one and install it. The installation is pretty straightforward. Now, the next thing we need to do is to check if we actually have Node installed. And you can do that by opening a terminal on your desktop. I can say open terminal, or I can type in Windows and say CMD. This should open up command prompt for us. And in command prompt here, we are going to check if we have Node installed. And it's quite easy to do. All you just need to do is type in node-v. Now if you see any number right here, it means that you properly installed Node.js. Now as you can see, I have version 16, which is quite old, but it doesn't really matter. As far as you use anything above the version 12, Express.js is going to work perfectly fine. Now we have that, as you can see. So the next thing we need to do is create a project folder. Okay, as you can see, I'm on my desktop and I'm going to right click, hit the new button and say folder. Now I have the new folder and I'm just going to call this project. Now in this project folder, I can simply right click on it, and if you use a Windows 10, you might see the option to open in VS Code. By the way, if you don't see that option, as you can see, mine is replaced with something else. So if you don't see that option, it's easy. You can actually go inside of the folder, go to the address bar right here and type in CMD. Now this should open up that folder in command prompt. Now once it opens up that folder, you can simply type in code and dot. Now this should open up VS Code with your project in mind, as you can see right here on my screen. Now we can get started with installing Express. Now it's quite easy to install Express. All you need to do is go back to the terminal, which is this one right here, and type in npm install Express. And also we're going to install some other packages later on in this video, but for now I just want to install this one called NodeMon. Now NodeMon, we're going to talk about it later on in the video so that you get to know the use of NodeMon. Now hit enter and your browser is going to download all those packages into that folder. As you can see, it's simply downloading all of them. We are simply going to wait. It doesn't take much of the time. Now you can see that it's done downloading all those packages. Now the next thing we need to do is type in npm init-y. Now this would create a package.json file for us to track any of the changes or dependencies we have on our project. So once you do that and hit enter, it's going to generate a package.json file for us. Now right in here, as you can see, we have our package.json file right here, and then we have our node modules right there. Okay, everything the way it should be. Now we have it in VS Code right here, so we can start by creating our first file, which is going to be our server file. You can do that by saying a new item button right here and giving it a name like index.js. Now this is going to be our server file. This is the file that would listen to whenever we have any request to our server. So the first thing we need to do is to import Express. We can do that by saying const express equal to require, and we're going to require the Express library like that. Now once we require this Express library, the next thing we need to do is to initialize this Express that we've just imported. To do that, you go down to a new line and you say const app, which is just a variable, and you say equal to not require anymore. You just say Express and you put it as if it's a function you're calling. Now with this, you've just initialized Express, but we are not ready to start the server yet. In order to start the server, we need to listen for which port we want to listen on. Okay, the port is like a place on your local host machine that you want all these activities to run on. And to do that, it's quite easy. Okay, you use one of the methods in Express. So we go down on a new line and we say app.listen. Now this would listen for any port at all on our server. Now you can simply type in any port right here, probably like 4000 or 5000, doesn't really matter. For this video, we'll just go with the usual 3000. Now after that, there is a callback function that is placed within this. So we can say function. It takes no parameter for this one, and instead of the function, all we just need to do is say console log. Now we just need to console log that yes, we've started our server, so that we know that our server is running. So we say server started on port 3000, like that. Very easy. But there's one more step to starting a server that we need to take. So we go back to the package.json file, and in this section called the scripts, you just need to go and create a new script. So we'll add a comma at the end and we go down. In here, we're going to call our script the start script. Okay, so whenever we run this start script, it will start our project. Now after that, you add into quotes again, and all we just need to do right now is call node, and what we need to do is run index.js, like that. Now when we run index.js, the node package module, which is npm, it's going to run this index.js file and translate or transcode everything inside of it. So right here, it's going to know that we need Express. We've initialized Express and we are listening on this port. Now if you go to the browser and you visit localhost port 3000, which is localhost 3000, like this, it's gonna show an error page because yes, the server is not yet started. You can see it says this site can't be reached. Okay, but now when we go back to our terminal right here and we type in CLS, this is going to clear out our terminal and give us more space to work with. Now in here, all we just need to do is type in npm start. With this simple line of code, we'll be able to start our Node.js server. As you can see, it says project start Node.js index.js, like that. Now as you can see, it says server started on port 3000. Interesting. Back to the browser, and when we refresh on port 3000, you get this. It says cannot get a slash. Now why is it saying cannot get a slash? Well, actually the slash simply means the root directory, okay, the main page. It says that it cannot get the main page in our server. And why? Well, actually there is no main page on our server and we need to create that. Now since we're trying to access a page, we're using the get method. Now if you're trying to save information to a page, we use the post method. Those are the two methods you normally use on the internet. Now there are many more methods like the put, delete and patch, but we'll talk about those ones later on in the future. Now back in VS Code, in order to fix that error, we go down on a new line and we say app.get. Now the get is a method in Express and it takes in two parameters. The first one is the path, which means the place we're trying to access, and the next one is the function. It looks like this. When we have two quotes, we say slash. That means whenever anybody goes to the main route or the main path in our server, we want to run a simple function. Now we're going to use this function right here. Now the function takes two parameters actually. The first one is the requests, which we normally use req to specify, and then the next one is the response. So you get the request and the response. The request is if anybody is trying to get access to some specific stuff, probably by sending you some information, like the way you search on YouTube how to do this and it spits out some results. Well, you're actually making a request, and then the response is the result that YouTube actually throws back at you. So the response is what we're going to send back to the user. For now, we won't deal with the request as much, but we'll deal with the response very well. So we go over and hit enter. We say res, and now there are many methods you can call with this response parameter. So you can call the download, you can call the send, you can call the write, and all those things we're going to talk about them later on in the video. But for now, we're going to use res.send. Now res.send will simply send any kind of information you want, be it JSON, text, strings, HTML, CSS, anything at all, it will send it. If it's a link, it will send it. If it's a page, it will send it. But majorly it has to be in a string kind of format. So things like videos and audios, you can't send them using the res.send. But for now, we'll just say send hello. This is the main page. Now anytime we visit the main page in our server, it's going to send us this message saying hello, this is the main page. Now if I go back here and probably refresh, you see that it still says cannot get slash. I refresh, it still says the same thing, cannot get slash. We've made the change in VS Code, but it's not reflecting because our server needs to be restarted. So to do that, you go into npm right here or your terminal. You need to cancel the server by saying Ctrl+C, hit on Y and click on enter, and then you need to start it again by saying npm start. Now once you start up the server again, it's gonna look like this, and now this time around when you go back to the browser and refresh, you see that it says hello, this is the main page. Now we've successfully gotten the main page in our server, as you can see, but stopping and restarting the server isn't something you want to be doing every single time, and that is why we installed NodeMon in the first place. Okay, NodeMon is a package that allows our server to be restarted automatically. Okay, so it's automatically going to restart our server every single time. Now back in our package.json file, all we need to do is go right there and call NodeMon. Instead of node, we say NodeMon index.js. In our terminal, we can stop our server again and then start up our server using the same process. Now you're going to see something different this time. You see that it says NodeMon index.js, NodeMon, it says restart at any time, enter rs. You can see all other information that you need, and it shows you that it's starting the index.js file. So this would automatically listen for any time we have a change on the server, and then it will restart the server by itself. So take a look at this. If I go back right here and refresh, we still get the same thing. If I go back to the VS Code right here in our index.js file, we can simply change some information by saying probably, let's say this is the main page, or we'll call this the home page. If I go back to the browser and refresh, you see we don't need to restart the server. NodeMon will do it for us, and you can see it still commits the same thing, still says the same thing over and over again. That is how you can use NodeMon to automatically restart your server in case you made any changes or pretty much there's any error on the server. Now let's keep going. So we've been able to get the home page. So let's say for instance you want to visit like the about page of your site. If I go to this, then I go to /about, what shows up? You can see it says cannot get about. Now why is it saying cannot get about? Well, it's actually because we haven't set an about route. Okay, each and everything we'll do right here is a route, as we'll define that if I go to this page, do this, it is called a route. Now it's easy. So what to do this, you can simply say app.get, and we can say anytime somebody visits the about route in our server, we want to run some functions. So we say functions. This function takes some parameters, which is request, like we've seen before, and a response. Instead of the function, we can say res.send, and we need to send in some information. So we say this is the about page, like that. Now if I refresh this page, you see that it says about page. So we've created two routes. One of the routes is the index page or the home page, and then this next is the about route. Now you can keep creating more and more routes in your Express.js, but the fact is that if you work on a very large project, like your site has like 300 pages, 200 pages, you simply need to do this for each one of them, which is very bad. Okay, it's essentially going to fill up this one file, and if you start writing more and more complex functions or more complex actions inside of this, it's gonna be a very long script. So how do you fix that? Well, you actually create a route in another file and you use that route in this actual file. So let's see how you can do that. It is quite easy. All you need to do is go into probably another folder or another file, which we can do right now. We'll create a new folder, we'll call it a route. Inside of this routes folder, we create an about.js route. So that means anytime we want to go to an about page, this file gets to handle all the information on that page. So when we hit enter, we can get a blank file like this. Now there are two things we need to do. Again, we need to import Express, so we say const express, or we need to say require, and we can require Express like that. Now the next thing after this is to create a router. Okay, you call this a router when you're trying to pass a route to another file. So to do this, you can say const router equals to express dot router, and you call that as if it's a function like this. But that's not all. You still need to export this router so that the app.js file can actually read it. Okay, as you can see, the index.js file doesn't know that this file exists. So if you tend to do anything on this file, there will be no changes committed because it doesn't know this file. So to do that, it's simple. You can say modules.exports equals to router. Now we've exported this router back into our node modules so that the index.js file can actually use it. So to use this file in the index.js, all you need to do is create a variable first of all. So we say const, and we say this is the about, and the about equals to when we require the file from our about file. So we say dot slash, we go into the route file and we pick the about.js option right there. Technically it's going to look like this without the JS at the end. So you see we have a variable called about, which we're not using at the moment. In order to use them, we need to call another express method called the use. Okay, so we say app.use, and then we'll specify a path that anytime we go to slash about, then it should use this router that we've imported right here. So about is the router that we want. So now if I go back to the browser and probably refresh this page, you see that it still works because the router is not doing anything at this point. There is nothing on the router. Okay, but if we want to fix that, we can go to the about.js right here and we say router.get. Now since it's in this place, we don't need to say get slash about again because we've already done that in the index.js file. All we need to do is say get slash, and then when we do this, we want to run a function accordingly. This function takes a request and a response, and then we can do whatever we want. We can say res.send, and we can call this actual about page. Now when we go back to the browser, let's see what happens. If I go right here and I refresh, you see it says actual about page, no longer about page. And it's because when we do this, it is no longer reading this about method right here again. It is now working with this one it's found right here. And since there's a response right there, it's going to like negate anyone that is down here. And that is why you need to actually put this above any of your other routes, because if I happen to put this right under the main about route, guess what happens? It's actually going to read this and not this. So back in the browser and I refresh, you see it still says about page because yes, it already has read this about route before reading this, so it doesn't care about this anymore. So please take note of that when you work in Express. And with that idea, you can create as many routes as possible. So if you wanted to create like a user route, it's quite easy and the same process. All you just need to do is in your routes folder, you create like a user.js file. In there, you just want to require Express right there. And when you require Express, all you just want to do is call in a router. This can be any name at all. This is just a variable name, and you want to pin it to the Express, but you call the router method in Express like this. Next is that you need to export it, which is modules.exports equals to router. When you export the router, you can do something else here. You can say router.get. Whenever we get anybody on the users, you want to say a function. So we want to run a function, and this function gets some response, and we're going to respond and send some information. We're going to say this is the user page. Take note that you need to add the 2 parameters right here. Now, if you just do this and you try to visit the users without actually adding it to the main file, it's not going to do anything. As you can see, cannot get users. But when we go back to the index.js file and we import our users, we can just call router right here, and it's going to show 2 routers, but we just need this, and we can say this should be user in this case, and we can say right here that app.use, whenever there is anybody trying to go to the user page, it should work with that router. So we're going to call the router called users. And that's how simple it is to work with routers. Now, if I refresh here, you see it says user page. So I hope this video did help you a lot in understanding how to work with Express and how to work with routes and how to create routes. In the next video, I'm going to simply talk about how you can start rendering some pure HTML on your page and how you can actually manipulate data within these 3 pages. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you hit the subscribe button right now, and I'll see you on the next video.